Biochar can be produced in two general ways. It can be produced in a modern bioenergy plant, or it can be produced either the traditional way or a modified version of the traditional way involving stoves. And when you produce biochar in a bioenergy plant, there's zero emissions. But when you produce biochar by the traditional method, or we can just say by burning, you can see the smoke coming off of it. That there's an initial large release of greenhouse gases, mostly, from it, and it's it is kind of alarming to see whenever you see charcoal being made, whether it's biochar being made or a commercial charcoal plant. There's a lot of emissions, but it can be deceptive because those emissions are still less than would occur naturally. So to explain that, I'll walk you through an example. So we have two, in this hypothetical, we've got two 1 kilogram blocks of wood. One of those blocks we put out in the forest to just sit and biodegrade. And the other one we turn into biochar. Now when we turn one into biochar, roughly when you turn wood into charcoal, or any plant material into charcoal, roughly 50% of the carbon that makes up that material is immediately lost during combustion to the atmosphere, or it's lost. And that is a big pulse of carbon that's lost all at once, and emissions matter. But when you look at things in the, if you look at a 10-year time span, so the day that you made that biochar, half of that carbon was lost to the atmosphere that the wood was made of. But that other piece that was sitting in the forest, in 10 years, roughly, the environment can be complicated, but generally in 10 years, 99% of the carbon that makes up that piece of wood that we put in the forest is lost to the atmosphere through biodegradation. So like microbes eat the wood, and then other microbes eat those microbes, and it's a food source, but it's not a permanent food source. So over time, forests will increase the organic matter that's on their floor, but it's small increments of increases, and so after 10 years, the piece of wood that was just sitting in the forest, 99% of the carbon in that piece of wood has gone up into the atmosphere, and 1% of that carbon is in the forest soil. But the one we made into biochar, half the carbon was immediately lost, and another sixth, maybe, will be lost in the first couple years as oils that are like plant oils that are on the charcoal, like those get degraded, but the actual charcoal itself sticks around for thousands of years. So 10 years in, you've got a third of the carbon that was turned into charcoal still there as carbon that will not go away. But you've only got 1% of the carbon that wasn't turned into biochar. So you got a huge release immediately, but a much lower release of greenhouse gases and emissions, in the grand scheme of things.
The commercial production of biochar, what would the efficiency be to
So when biochar is produced, in a commercial bioenergy plant, it's essentially the same process that happens when you produce biochar, through traditional means. But the difference is that the gases that are emitted are all captured. So in a commercial plant, first in the traditional plant, like you can do it with stoves, and there's different methods and tricks you can do, but essentially it's all the traditional method of you dig a hole in the ground, you start a fire in it, put a bunch of wood and material in there, and then smother the fire, and that starves the combustion of oxygen and creates charcoal instead of converting all of the plant material to ash. And when you do that in the ground, you can see, anyone who's been to a hangi, you can see the ground just steaming, and those are emissions of gases coming out of it. And so in a commercial biochar plant, that same process is happening, but contained inside a metal kiln, basically. And when the gases are produced, they're captured and they're stored. And then those gases include biogas, which is like a flammable gas that can be converted to be used similar to diesel fuel. And usually in these biochar production plants, those gases are all captured, and then that energy is used on site to power the machine initially, and to run all the lights and all the things that the biochar plant would need, to like any business would need. So they produce their own energy on site, and zero emissions to the environment, and it's a really well understood process that it's really been adapted to be used for producing biochar. It's been used, the earliest work I read about the commercial use of pyrolysis, which is the method for producing charcoal. It's burning without oxygen, and it's been used, all over the world for different waste management purposes initially. A lot of countries incinerate their waste rather than putting it into landfills. And there are environmental concerns associated with that, but much fewer if you don't have a smokestack to deal with. So pyrolysis is used in all different kinds of waste management, and producing biochar has really taken off in response to climate change and all the different environmental consequences of modern life that it can help address.
You said in your last thing about the biochar sort of being apartment blocks for bacteria and fungi, and also another thing that I found was interesting about the emissions from cows by feeding them with biochar. And I just, is there a is part of your analysis about how much fungi and bacteria are in the soil, and how it's affecting that simulation?
Yeah, so I find soil microbes just infinitely fascinating. And it's challenging because I find them so fascinating, but they're also extremely expensive to really find out about. You know, if you want to know who's living in your soil, you know, the real way to do it is, and this is something I've done quite a bit of, is to measure the DNA in the soil, which will tell you not only what types of microbes are present, but exactly which types are present in what abundance. And if you take that information and then and that's not commercially like viable. I mean, I find it interesting because I've done it for academic like science projects, but realistically, it's prohibitively expensive. But you can assess like generally what microbes are there, and lots of people are doing this, where they're advocating for just counting how many bacteria and how many fungi cells are in your soil. And that's valuable information, but to me, it's not as valuable as how active those microbes are. And that's one of the tests, one of the soil biology tests that's included in our packages. It measures the respiration from the soil. So it literally measures the exhaled gases from microbes in the soil. So you can know not just how many microbes are in your soil, but how active are they? How thriving of a population do you have? Because microbes can be present, but they can be hibernating, essentially, when if the conditions aren't just right. So it's really important to really regard it as an ecosystem. And sure, part of an ecosystem is going around doing a census of exactly who's here, but it's equally important to find out in a census, okay, what's everybody doing? You know, what are these people doing? Not just how many are here. And hopefully this can help not just consumers, but industries who want to clean things up, can implement changes and actually measure how effective they are at achieving environmental goals.
And can I also say, the test for microbial activity as opposed to, testing the DNA microbes, is that comparatively cheaper?
It's the difference between, to measure soil respiration, the way it's done is you use so you put soil inside of a glass jar, and you add just enough water to get the moisture level in the soil to exactly what the method says it's supposed to be. And then you put another glass jar inside of it that has a chemical in it that absorbs CO2 out of the air. And you seal up the big jar with the little jar in it, and then you measure how much CO2 is coming out. So there's some cost involved there, but it's mostly just labor. But when you do DNA analysis, it's as complicated as you see on TV and more. And it involves, high-priced kits that come from like science supply companies, and it's a really involved process that eventually I think it'd be really great to see prices come down and consumers to be able to get their soil DNA analyzed. And we can totally do that. So if anyone wants their garden DNA, soil DNA looked at, no, I'm your guy. But it's usually cost prohibitive, and because there's so many tests that I could have included in like the packages that we have, but I had to be really, I felt I had to be really careful to make sure that all of them had a direct relevance to either profitability or environmental sustainability, and like doing like the deep dive into exactly which species of microbes are here. Yeah, it's intellectually interesting, but I couldn't really say, well, that's worth thousands of dollars because it has, you know, such and such information. It's one of those things that's at the moment kind of interesting for the sake of interesting, but yeah, in time, maybe it will be something we can add. But
Soil Health, the Soil for Climate program, and they had something like it was sent away to the States and looked like a litmus test, and it come back with a microbial count. So,
Other people who do that in New Zealand too, like soil food.
yeah,
A lot of people have started to do that. Things
Yeah.
that were considered way out 5-10 years ago are now becoming mainstream.
yeah. Soil Food Web does the bacteria and fungi counts that I mentioned, and it's interesting, and I think it's great, but yeah, I think it's not really designed for, you know, to impact conventional industries, and, you know, it's really marketed to organic gardeners and, you know, small farmers, particularly, you know, organic farmers, and it's definitely great and worth doing. But, you know, what we've got here with AgRestore is it's kind of designed for a different purpose. And I would really like to, I mean, sometimes I think it just needs, like, the motivations for making sustainable choices need to be clear. And so a big part of what I'm trying to do is not, you know, I'm happy to preach to the converted, and I'm pretty sure I am here tonight. But you know, I really want to persuade people who don't have a strong opinion about, you know, the environment to make the environmentally sustainable choices.
I think we'd all agree that's really worthwhile, getting a lot of these ideas into the mainstream
Yeah.
farmers who
awareness.
have never really considered it.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, New Zealand is, in many ways, it's, you know, positioned very well to pivot in response to new changes that come about in the world. And whether it's, you know, industries or, you know, or other things. It's a more straightforward process for New Zealand to update its practices than it can be in, you know, in bigger, more complicated places.
Can I ask, and I'm just